Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. I'm Noorli Razali. Okay, I'm going to actually present to you my paper entitled The Portrayal of Older People and Their Relationship with the Younger People in Selected Popular Malay Novels. Right, so let me start with. Okay, so introduction to this, I would say this. When we are talking about novels, right? So you would like to understand what we mean by popular novels. So basically, popular novel is actually defined as those that attract many readers, especially adolescents, due to the external factors like publisher, promotion, the author's fame, yeah, and novel packages. And there are also external factors to the internal factors, all right? So other than external, there's internal factors where it's actually based on romance. Okay, the theme is about love, and there's also incorporations of family conflicts. Okay, there are interesting characters that are actually described in terms of their physical attributes, being educated, having an urban lifestyles. Okay, so apart from that, the internal factor to why it's called popular novel as well is that it has an easy to follow plot. It uses colloquial language and it's between that's actually between Malay and English, right? So this suits the Dawson slogan of being simple and pleasure, you know. So basically, popular novel can be seen in many of the particular titles that we have these days, like for example, Pixie, okay, from the Karen Croft Company, okay, and many other independent what you call companies that actually sprung up and has been well received, okay, by the readers. Okay, so popular novels sometimes are seen as empty, and they are meant for only like and pleasure reading, to which these particular readers do not need or require any effort to digest its meaning, so it's very direct. But to say it's valueless probably is something that is debatable. Okay, now let's go on. Okay, why exactly that we look at Malay novels, right? And why is it that we want to look at Malay novels, right? Malay popular novels from the Islamic perspective? Because we know very well that we Malaysian do not read that much, okay? So according to statistics, we only read about 1 to 2 books per year. Okay, and with that kind of number, most of the books that is read are novels. All right, and definitely this become a platform for knowledge, and this particular knowledge sometimes either influence the reader's belief, thoughts, and behaviors. So basically, all research on Malay novels, right, according to Kamaruddin, should be done from the Islamic perspective, especially when we talk about the author, the reader, okay, and the community that actually involved in reading these materials are basically the Malay, which are actually Muslims, right? So that is basically a need for it. Now let's go on. Okay, so why exactly I would not focus on the old and the young? Because there's a lot of issues that crop up in regards to this. So basically, there's a lot of issue on the lack of respect, and the gap in between the generation. Many of the elderly, were abandoned, and the young ones were also, neglected in some way. So this is issues in our society, and and the older generation has been, the center of focus for quite some time, and even until now, because our generation is growing, our society is getting getting older, and we will have more older citizens by 2030. So that is why. Okay, so the current study would like to identify, right, the elderly's portrayal in the selected Malay popular novels, and also to identify the young and the old relationships portrayed in the novel through the characters' behaviors, thoughts, and actions from the Islamic perspective. So basically, the novel selected from the writer Liza Noor. Well, she might not be the most famous one, but she's one of the what you call the quite well accepted writer. She had almost 25 novels so far. These are among the novels, and one of the novel has been either transformed into drama series on TV3. So I've selected Bukan Salahku and Bukan Gadis Biasa from Liza Noor. Okay, so basically we're going to look at these novels. Okay, let's get some literature review. So basically we talk about ethics and morality. Ethics come from the Greek word of ethos. Okay, so and morality comes the root word mores, right, which means courtesy, politeness, traditions, and it's usually associated to what we call the values of community, right, and evaluations, which is actually evaluations of human mind. When we talk about Islamic values, it's in contrast of that because Islamic values is not a theory. Okay, so it's a concept that is not the same as the Western perspective of ethics, right? Islamic values is a very much of a spiritual attitude of glorifying, human behavior towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so lillahi ta'ala, and whatever we practice, right, is actually incorporated in what we call akhlaq. Okay, that is said by Imam Al-Ghazali, and basically this is actually a way for us to glorify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instead of pleasing human being. So when we talk about older people portrayal, we're looking at the portrayal of the representations of the characters, the behavior of the older people. Okay, and when we look at the old and the young relationship, we are looking at the family, the stage of being a family, and the stage of being in a what you call strangers. Yeah. So this relationship, can be look at how they are thought of, okay, how they are treated and reacted to. So basically, when we talk about Islamic values, when it comes to the old and the young, right? I'll just quote one here. Okay, they said that from Abu Hurairah, Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, the young should initiate salutations to the old. So that's a kind of respect, okay, that we give to the old, right? And then you know, uh, it's also said that if a young man honors an elderly on the account of his age, Allah appoints someone to honor him in his old age. So this is a treatment of, what you give, you will get back. All right. So it's an example of how the young should should treat the old, so that later we will be treated well as well. Okay. And from Ibn Abbas said, Rasulullah said, whoever has no pity for the young and does not respect the old, is not one of us. So that's how very much need of it, right? So I'm not going to go more. So let's go to the findings in the discussion. So basically, in these two novels, we have few characters, right? And basically, all the elderly characters are portrayed. Like for example, the main character, right? The two main character for both of the novels, right? Opa, Amina, and Mato. They are elderly characters, were supposed to be grandmothers. Okay, they are very rich, very stubborn, very dominant, very proud. They are abusive at the same time, very egoistic. Okay, but filled with self-pity, right? But what important is that the character move from being the villains, right? The antagonist, right? To being a character that repent, that ask for forgiveness, and that reflect on their actions, which is a shift, right? And that shift definitely needs time before it can actually go to that stage, right? So, but other elderly characters are portrayed very positively. Okay, in terms of the old and the young relationship, um, the characters that has been portrayed and the plot of this particular writer, it shows how all these characters actually respect the elderly. So although they were abused, for example, they were mistreated, but they still do their responsibility as children, as granddaughter to the character. And that's how Islam has actually encouraged us to do. Okay, so if I were to conclude, I would say that these novels basically represent the elderly characters in a positive manner. The characters were dynamic, there are changes in their behavior from evil to good, right? And the respect should be given to the elderly, all right, by the younger generation, despite of their faults, I would insist. So the act of the elderly mistreatment of the young, or their sins that they themselves need to bear. But on the part of youngsters, it's responsibility that we should, fulfill as human being to help them and to actually do good to them because lillahi ta'ala, not because to for the purpose of like getting the blessing of human being, but we are getting the blessing of God. um and I would say that Malay popular novels that project such values, right, as the Muslims, can actually help educate the generations, um especially like these two novels that allow us to understand the stage of being, an elderly, right? And how being youngs, how should you view the elderly? Because you should not be viewing them as burden, but instead you do good to them because of the fact that you remembers what you're doing is lillahi ta'ala. Okay, so this is something that should be encouraged in our society, inshallah. Thank you very much, everyone. All right, assalamu alaikum.